the members, maybe they have joined in for the first time in this follow-up session. So this was for the basic general information and awareness of all. So with this, I'll take this opportunity to welcome all our friends who have always been taking part in the follow-up sessions, and many of the friends who have joined in for the first time, and the students as well. So with this welcome note, namaste to all, and we have Arjun with us, who's our resource person for this particular session. So welcome, Arjun. And I think, Arjun, we are going to take up this session forward now with this welcome address. So Arjun, I think it's over to you now. And there are a few of our students also who joined in. So maybe we'd like to listen to Arjun and the proposal which Arjun is to share with us. Arjun, am I able to reach you? Parikshit Bhaiya? Bhaiya, am I audible?
Hello.
Yes, Arjun.
I had cut, I think. Now
Okay,
I came back.
okay, fine. Welcome, Arjun.
Yes.
Some of our participants are new to the session, as Parikshit Bhaiya has put forward the same. So, dear participants, dear students, and dear faculty members, this is a follow-up session of the student induction program, and we have Arjun Asthana with us. He is our resource person for the day, and we are going to hand over the session to Arjun so that we can share the proposal and have a good discussion with Arjun. So yes, over to you, Arjun.
I'm not able to share the screen again. There's a
okay, maybe there's some.
Can just check.
Arjun, I think we are able to see your name on screen now. So till then, in case any
I think some network fluctuation there.
Yes. So in case any of our students or faculties would like to put forward some of the views, or what are the expectations from these follow-up sessions? So we'd like to listen to that too. You can just raise your hand and a mic will be provided so that we can talk to each other.
Still, there's an issue with the screen sharing. I don't know. I'm trying to share.
Kindly do one thing. Kindly log off and log in again.
Yes, Priyaji.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, maybe because of yes.
Yes, I'll just do that.
Yes, Priyaji.
Actually, what I told Sharad sir was last first year students got the opportunity to hear the universal human values, but the senior students have not got the opportunity.
Oh, I see. So do we have some of the senior students also with us today?
Senior students are there. Actually, we could post it very late, actually by 6:45.
Oh, I see.
Seen it, but few have seen it and responded. So they are in the session. They are new to the session. They might not be even knowing what is universal human values. Some are
That's fine. That's fine. Anything they would like to share, and by seeing just the name universal human values, what kind of thoughts come to them? That will also be interesting to listen, isn't it, Priyaji?
Yeah, it will be interesting.
Right. So some of the children, some of the students, I think, are writing in the chat. So, dear students, I think it will be good if we can talk to each other. Just touch on your mic and unmute and express your views. I can see one of the students is writing, sir, मैं अपना company का सारा registration number बता दी. Well,
I'm still not able to share the PPT somehow.
Oh,
I'll relog.
Parikshit Bhaiya, I think you'll do the needful then. Parikshit Bhaiya, are we able to reach you?
Ji. Arjun, what is saying now?
That is not showing up actually for the screen sharing.
Now?
I'll check again.
I think if we make Arjun the host, he'll be able to.
Yeah, perhaps. Let me try this.
Because it happens at times. So in case Vikas or any of the students would like to.
Arjun, can you any option of using another device?
Amina Deviji.
I'll just check.
Yes.
Sri Lakshmi. Arnab Ghosh. Pratik Subhash Sawant. Or maybe Miss Parameshwari. Let's see if we are able to share the screen. That would be nice. Then the session would move forward in a way that is desirous. Meanwhile, if in case any of the students would like to share some of their views on what are, yes, we have the FAQs for Lecture 5 on screen now. Yes, Mr. Vikash Kumar, would you like to put forward? Vikash Kumar ji? Vikash ji, your mic is unmuted. Would you like to?
Now I think the screen is visible.
Nice, Arjun. I think Lecture 5, Happiness and Prosperity, current scenario. Yes, the screen is perfectly visible now.
Okay. So we can start now. We'll go back to what we basically aspire for, which is continuous happiness. So since the new people have joined, we can just ask this question that is it desirable to be happy all the time? Or is it better to be happy from time to time and have ups and downs in the feeling from time to time? You can write in the chat or we can discuss.
Yes, maybe an expression. Bindu Reshma ji, your mic is unmuted. Would you like to put forward your view? Or one can mention in the chat, Vikas ji is writing, sir, मैं अपना सारा कंपनी का registration number बता submit कर दी हूँ. Satakshi Kumari, FRC, Madam. Vikas ji, we put forward a question in which it was expressed by our resource person Arjun ji that whether we want to be happy all the time or sometime only. If you could have the answer for that, it will be nice.
I think maybe he might have written something else.
Yes. Ups and downs are a part of life. Pratik Subhash is writing that ups and downs are a part of life.
Okay, let's discuss that also.
Yes.
we may undergo various situations which are looking like they are favorable to us, and certain situations which are not so. But
so there's
then,
one
who is
more reply,
deciding?
Arjun, in
Yeah.
the chat. I'll just read it out to you. So Dr. Solomon Joseph is writing, are we successful and happy when we get all materialistic things in life?
We'll discuss that also. But first, we'll just look at whether we want to have ups and downs or whether we want to have a stable state where we are happy. So, this about this ups and downs, we can notice that there are various situations which we are coming across, and some of them may look or seem to be favorable to us, and some of them may seem to be unfavorable for us. But who is deciding that, and who is deciding how to handle that situation or how to feel during that situation? Like, suppose there's a situation which you like, then it's very easy to uh, have a good feeling about that situation. But when you're in a situation which you don't like, then can you maintain that same kind of a state where you're still accepting that situation and happy, or does the situation overpower your feeling and kind of control you into um, you know changing your feeling? So this is something which we can really look into deeply and see whether what we want and what we are able to do, first of all, these are two different things. So whether we aspire for continuously being in that state of happiness or not, that is one question. And second question is, are we able to or not? And are we kind of dependent on the situation for what we are feeling inside us? Or we are like, regardless of the situation, we can feel comfortable within. So these are two things which we can explore. We don't have to give an answer right now because it's something which may take some time to really explore. So anyhow, um, we'll just go forward with that. And there are other comments also, like positivity must be there, and are we successful and happy when we get materialistic things? So we'll slowly discuss all these things. So basically, can we say that before we continue, can we say that um, every human being aspires for continuous happiness? May not be able to achieve that kind of happiness, but is that something which we aspire for? We can answer that in yes or no. That is easy. So then,
Yes,
based
yes.
on that, we can try to go ahead. There may be ups and downs in the situation. There may be lots of different kinds of things going on in our mind and all that. But at the root of everything, are we aspiring for continuous happiness?
Yes, we do aspire for continuous happiness.
Okay. So everyone else also. You don't have to agree right now, but then I think maybe it will be clear when we go ahead. We are just asking about what we want. We are not asking about what we are able to do right now, whether we are able to be happy all the time or not. That's a different question. But right now, the question is about our aspiration, about what we want. And there are lots of prevailing notions about happiness. Like um, there may be this kind of thing that you might get bored of happiness if you're always happy, and you cannot see if there are no ups and downs in the feeling, then we will not be able to see uh, the impact of the happiness. So there are lots of kinds of notions or assumptions which we have made over time. So we'll just explore all these and come to see what we actually mean by happiness and the difference between happiness and excitement. This is another thing which gets kind of overlapped or confused a lot. So this is important to kind of distinguish between so that we're able to understand them separately and then like go for what we actually want. So you can just go through this, that there are all these kinds of assumptions, right? We have all these kind of preconditionings, or preconditionings are things which we have assumed to be true without really verifying them. So lots of assumptions and facts we have just taken from somewhere, like we have taken from what other people are saying, or else we've taken from our teachers or parents or the media or various sources. But what that basically means is that we have not really verified any proposal as such, but we have just assumed it to be true. And therefore, that assumption is so strong that we think that that is how it is. So our point of this workshop is to try to look at all these assumptions and see which ones are actually true and which ones have just been assumed to be true, and also explore some proposals without going through our assumptions, as in by asking ourselves directly. So owning physical facility or owning wealth and materialistic things. So of course they're required, because without that it would be hard to survive, right? For survival and for being comfortable, we need to have certain kinds of facilities. So those include, of course, food, water, shelter. But apart from that, also we might need some gadgets or some things to feel comfortable, right? So that level of how much you need and what you need and all that depends from person to person. But one thing is clear, that dependence on physical facility, if we are only dependent on physical facility, then that will not be enough for our happiness. As in, um, that is not something which can make us happy all the time. It is only something which can help us be comfortable in terms of our body. Like if we have an like a comfortable environment with the pleasant temperature and all that, then our body feels comfortable. And if we have enough food to eat, we're not going hungry, then that means our body health can be maintained. We do some exercise, we do some things, our health can be maintained. So what we're basically saying is that physical facility or wealth and materialistic things, all that is required to some extent. But if we try to get happiness out of that, then it will be something which doesn't really work. So you can just explore this proposal, and if you're getting any immediate kind of query or any immediate kind of sharing which you want to do according to this, then we can discuss. So basically what we get when we, like, when suppose you just got a new phone or something, then the immediate thing is that you get excited for a while. You feel a little bit thrilled for a while because it's something new, and you know you feel happy that you have it. But then after a period of time, you see something else, and then you feel like you want to have that also, right? Or sometimes it feels like the same for these other things, the other two, which are pleasure from a sensation or attention, appreciation from others. So whatever we're looking for, when we get that, we feel excited for some time. Like when we get this pleasure, or when we get this attention, or when we get this wealth, physical facilities, materialistic things. With all these things, the common thing is that we get excited for some time. And when we get it, we feel good at that moment. But then that doesn't last. So what we're trying to say is that any of these three things cannot last, cannot be continuous. Whether we get it from physical facility or pleasure or from attention, it cannot last. So, like suppose you went to a good restaurant, you had very tasty food. Then after some point, when you keep eating, then what happens? Doesn't it become that you don't feel like eating anymore, and you don't feel the value of that sensation anymore? I mean, you don't feel that it is that valuable. And then after some point, you start feeling that it is unnecessary. And then if somebody still forces you to eat, then you are it becomes like completely intolerable for you, because you cannot keep getting that sensation and being happy. You can get that sensation, get a little bit of excitement, and then it can go away. That's the only thing that can happen with any sensation. So whether it is taste of food or any of the other sensations like smell, touch, sound, like music also, you hear a piece of music, it can have some impact on you. It can lead to some feelings, some excitement, something. But then that cannot be continuous, because that is something which will come and go. So all these things come and go. So are you able to observe the coming and going of this thing? Like suppose you go for a movie with your friends, then maybe the time when you're planning the movie, getting ready for the movie, going for the movie, all this also might be kind of where you're in a state of excitement. You're happy and you're excited. And while watching the movie also, you may be excited. While you're going out, while you're coming back, you might be still excited. But then you can see that this won't last forever, right? That feeling cannot be there forever, because it's an event which cannot keep happening all the time. And same with attention or appreciation. Like suppose somebody appreciates you, then for that moment you feel good about yourself, you feel better about yourself, and then after like just a little while later, you're back to normal, where you don't feel that feeling anymore, because you're dependent on the other person for giving you that feeling. And when the other person stops giving it to you, then again you lose that state. So can you see the difference between excitement and happiness? You can answer in yes or no in the chat. That can you see the difference? Or we haven't talked about happiness so much, but can you see what excitement is?
Yes, we can.
So anyone else would like to mention anything or ask anything about excitement? Because happiness we haven't talked about so much yet, which we will talk about. But are you able to see that excitement is a kind of happiness which can't be continuous? What else would get you into this state of excitement? You can just think about it. Like, for example, anything which is from the body, through the body, like all these five senses: sound, touch, form, taste, smell, these are all senses which we can perceive with our five senses, right? These are all um, things which we can perceive through our senses. So anything which we can perceive through our senses is making use of the senses, and um, those senses cannot be used continuously also. Plus, we cannot get a stimulus for them also at every moment. So that cannot be continuous. And when we're talking about attention or appreciation, then that is not through the body as such. We might be expressing it through the body in terms of words, or in terms of some kind of hug, or some kind of, different kinds of ways of expressing through the body, through our words mostly. But can we see that even this cannot be continuous, because we are still dependent on another person to give us those feelings, and then we like to accept those feelings and then feel good about ourselves. That it's the same thing, just on a larger scale. That if a lot of people are appreciating your talent or your anything, it could be like if you're a model also, if a lot of people are appreciating your looks, or if you're a musician, a lot of people are appreciating your music, or if you're an actor, a lot of people appreciate your acting, and so on. So all that appreciation which is coming from other people, that makes you dependent on the other person if you're trying to derive happiness out of that. So that's why many times it happens that many of the famous people, when their career is over, many times they go into depression because they're not able to get that continuous, that happiness which they were getting, that excitement which they were getting. So that happens only because we've assumed that to become something which is continuous, but it cannot be continuous.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like you just told it, if we wish to get a kind of appreciation from other people, so it means like we are dependent on them for our happiness. So there are many ways, like if we do a work, we put in a lot of efforts, and we wait for that moment to get that efforts fulfilled. Like whatever effort we have put in had kept some marks and had come out with good words. So that is what we do every work for. So is it like everybody does a job for getting an appreciation? It happens in one way or the other. So is it something negative that we must feel like for getting an appreciation from the other people?
Actually, it's not something which we take as negative or positive. It's something where we just realize that this cannot be a source of our happiness. If we are looking for our happiness in that appreciation, then we will be disappointed, because even if we get it, we will get it only for a short time, and then again we do something else to try to get that again. Then again we do something else to try to get it again. Like if an actor does only one movie, then he'll not be able to get that appreciation for very long. So that's why they do so many movies. And then, like, if you're able to see that, okay, this is my career, this is my thing which I'm doing, if you're able to put everything in perspective and not really try to depend on that for your happiness, then it's fine. We should just be aware of that. That's all we're saying. So it's not a negative or a positive. It's just something that we can be aware of. And that thing to be aware of is that any kind of feeling from someone else can only last for a short time, and that can only help us to get excited for some time or get motivated also only for a short time, because that kind of motivation also doesn't last, that kind of feeling doesn't last, right? So dependence on the other doesn't really work when we are trying to, when our goal is for continuous happiness. It definitely helps in getting those from time to time, those boosts which is of excitement. But then what happens in the period in between, that is also to be looked at, right? Because if we are working very hard on some project and we spend say 6 months on that project, and we are just waiting for releasing that project so that we get the excitement, get the appreciation at that point, then we may get that after that 6 months or whenever we release the project. But that whole 6 months which we spent, are we able to be happy there as well? And even after getting that appreciation, are we able to still maintain the happiness even when that appreciation goes away? Or even if that appreciation turns into criticism, then are we still able to maintain the happiness? That's what we can look at.
Yes, I get it.
So eventually what happens with this is that sometimes this leads to excitement, and sometimes this leads to depression. Because when we get the feelings from the other, when we get the favorable sensation and all that, then it leads to excitement. And if we don't get it, in spite of our efforts, we might put in a lot of efforts in something and not get the desired attention or appreciation for it. Or we put in a lot of efforts in trying to earn money also, and then we don't get it. In such kind of cases also, we are trying to depend on that for our happiness. So then when we don't get it, then we become unhappy, and that can turn into depression. So what we mentioned earlier, when someone mentioned earlier about ups and downs in life, that's all because we are kind of dependent on excitement and depression. I mean, it just goes in those cycles of those, because we are kind of dependent on these three things: physical facility and sensation, and getting feelings from the other. So because of this dependence, we will obviously have fluctuations in our mood, because our whole structure is around this. But this doesn't have to be the way it is. This is just the way it is in most people's, how most people have structured their understanding. But if we just try to explore beyond this, then we can see that this doesn't have to be done this way. And in fact, there can be a very different way of looking at all these things. That's what we are going to go into next. But before that, we'll just ask this question and be clear about what excitement is and how much it can do. As in, it can only give us some boosts from time to time, which are not really happiness, but they're just momentary pleasure, kind of momentary feelings, which just come very quickly and go very quickly. So are we able to see what exactly excitement can do, and what we are really like? We are spending a lot of our efforts on these three things, right? We are spending a lot of our time on trying to get a job which pays more, or trying to get uh, this pleasure from taste, or pleasure from touch, or pleasure from sound, right, or smell. Mostly, like, when we look at this thing, we are seeing that mostly whatever our senses can perceive and feel, from that we are trying to get happiness, and also from our trying to get feelings from the other people, and so on. So can you see, the question is very simple, that can you see the limitation of excitement now? You can answer in yes or no.
Limitation in the sense, could you make it more clear?
What's that?
What is it you actually referring to in the word limitation of happiness? Can you just tell it with an example so that it becomes more clear?
No, I'm saying, like, after seeing this slide, then can you see that excitement has its limitation of not being continuous?
Yeah, okay.
That although it does lead to some momentary kind of good feeling for a short time, or some kind of a boost in our mood for a short time, even though that does happen, it's not denied. But can you see that this kind of an excitement has a limitation of being very momentary, or very kind of something from time to time, but it cannot be continuous? Or do you think that you can have any of these three things in a continuous manner? Because right now our whole effort is for these three things only, mostly, and we are trying to derive continuous happiness out of something which cannot be continuous. So obviously it won't work.
Okay, what I have observed from my thing is like, as you told, if you're doing a thing which lasts for quite a long time, So during that journey, we are not quite happy with what is happening. So, but at the end, thinking about the end result, we know that something good is coming. So we wait for that moment, and whatever happens in between, we are getting adjusted to it. So is it some way that even during the procedure, we can keep us happy, not just thinking about the end results, but also we enjoy the journey towards the final goal?
Definitely. And if you look at why you're doing what you're doing, if there's a real foundation, I mean, if there's a real solid reason for that, which is bigger than just getting the appreciation or the attention, then automatically when you do the process, then you won't be so focused on the result. So when you're not so focused on the result, you might actually get a better result. But that is very different from like trying to get a certain result and then putting in a lot of effort to get that result and then struggling, and that's a whole different way of going. So one way of going is like that, where we are totally focused on the result, and based on the result we have our whole program of what to do and how to do it and all that. So when we go that route, then many times it becomes like a struggle, because there's a lot of pressure on how to get the result and how to do it the best way possible and all that. But on the other hand, when our when we are having a like a clearer picture of what is all this like excitement and happiness and all that, then we put things in perspective, and then whatever we do with full involvement, but with less focus on the result. So with that, we end up getting a better result, but our focus during the journey is not so much on the result. So that looks very odd that it can happen like this. But just imagine that when you're too focused on the result, then don't you also have a lot of thoughts about how to get the result, getting the result, what if it doesn't happen, all these kind of thoughts, which also take up time and energy? Or is it very focused? And on the other hand, if you're doing something where you're not so focused on the result, then you can focus much more on being involved in the process. And when you're so involved in the process, then obviously you will get a better result, but then you'll not be focusing on trying to get a better result. You'll just be focusing on the task which you're doing. So suppose you're reading a book also. Suppose you're reading a textbook. Then if you're focused fully on the subject of what you're reading, then your concentration will also be much more and your productivity also will be much more. But if you're reading a textbook and you're thinking about the exam, thinking about how many marks you're supposed to get, thinking about how other people are studying, thinking about getting the best marks in the class and so on, then your focus is deviated to all these things, and with that result your focus on the actual subject what you're reading becomes less. So that's what I'm trying to say, that when you're totally involved in what you're doing rather than focusing on the result, then you can end up with a better result and also a better state of your feelings also.
And why is it like if we get to have a good thing in our life, which we are really expecting, and we get that good words from other people, and as you told, it lasts for quite a few days at least, or a few hours. After that, it will just wipe off. Then why is it like in case that in the other way around, if we get something which is not desirable, so it will not be momentary, or it will not just last for a few days, it will keep on with us, taking our time and energy. So why is it this happening in two different ways for the same person?
Okay, that's also a nice question. And we can look at this as something where there's some situation happening, right? Something is happening outside. That is one part of it. And the second part of it is how we are reacting or responding to that situation. So if we have some situation which we feel is favorable for us, then we respond in a totally different way. And if we feel that the situation is something which we don't want, or something which is bad, or something which which we didn't expect, then we start feeling that we didn't want it and we got it. And then we start also getting into this whole, why did this happen to me? Or uh, how come such a thing is happening in my life, and that kind of a thing. So once we get into that, then we start pitying ourselves, or we start feeling bad about ourselves, and these thoughts keep coming again and again and keeps going. So can you see that there are two different things happening here? One is the situation, and second is the way that we are looking at the situation. Like we were just discussing last time, that um, there was an announcement that the exam is going to happen very quickly. Like earlier, it was told that the exam will happen 1 month later, but then suddenly there was a notice that the exam will start from 3 days later. So then, as a student, I could either look at it as something where I feel that they've given only 3 days, and I can keep looking at this 3 days and saying all kinds of things. Like I could say that why was I born in this year where this COVID happened and they gave only 3 days to study for the exam. And I could go into that whole kind of a situation. I mean, like the same situation I could look at like that. Or another way I could look at is that, okay, I have these 3 days. How can I spend my time in the best way possible and do whatever I have to do in these 3 days? And maybe after I finish my exams, since the exams are finishing early, since I don't have to wait for a month, I can, after the exams, I can do something else which I wanted to do. So like that, the way you respond to every situation is totally in your hands. So even if somebody appreciated you or criticized you, either way, you have the choice of how to respond to that situation. So suppose somebody said something very nice to you, then maybe you felt good for like 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 days, as you said. And suppose somebody said something very harsh, which was very disturbing, then also you can either feel bad for 10 days or 20 days or lifelong or one day. That is also up to you if you look at. So whatever situation is happening is not really completely in our control. Whatever people are saying is not completely in our control. But the way that we respond to the situation is completely in our control. So if you look at these two things as two different parts of the thing without mixing them together, then you can, like, you just isolate these two parts of what is happening. One is that the situation is happening, and second is how we're looking at the situation and how we're responding to that situation. So when we see them as different, then we can see that we don't have much control over the external situation, but we have full control over the internal situation, which is happening within us. So even though it may be a slow process to start being aware of this and start responding, it can still be started immediately, because all it takes to begin with is just the awareness that the situation is happening and I am responding. The situation is happening and I am able to perceive it and react or respond in whatever way I want. So that has to do with how we look at life in general. That has to do with the whole bigger picture. So that's why we want to discuss about happiness also after this, because so far we've discussed only about excitement, and excitement is something which cannot last. So now we'll talk about something which can last and which we can actually actively work on. So that was a good question. So there are so many notions about this excitement. I mean, about happiness, but happiness is not in all this. In fact, it's only excitement. And sometimes when we don't even get excitement from all those things, then sometimes we resort to a stronger dose of excitement, which is these kind of things, which are mentioned in the slide. So this is also just because we are not getting that happiness, we are looking for happiness, we are in that search of happiness, and we have tried methods of excitement, and since they didn't work for very long, sometimes we want a stronger dose of that, which is some stuff like this. But of course, this also doesn't work. This is just trying to say that when we don't find it there, then we look beyond that, and then we don't find it here also. So all this doesn't work. This can be explored, and then we can go to what the real happiness is in. So this becomes clear, right? That excitement and escape is not happiness. This is what we are commonly calling happiness, but this is why you cannot have it continue, this kind of happiness continuously. This is why earlier in the discussion, some people were saying that ups and downs are part of the thing and all that. That's all because we have linked happiness with this excitement, which is not really the real happiness. And we have assumed that we can have this continuously, but then since we don't get it, then we see the ups and downs in our feeling, and therefore we are concluding that happiness cannot be continuous. But what the actual conclusion you could make instead of that is that happiness cannot be continuous. But even that you don't have to conclude right now. You can just think about it, and you know try to explore and ask yourself various questions, and then get the answers, and then know for yourself. Otherwise, this also becomes just like any other assumption. So how do we get the real happiness? That must be the question on everybody's mind. So although it doesn't look very like glamorous, because it is not something which is to put you in a state where you just get a burst or a boost of something. It's to get you in a state where you're so stable that whatever situation comes up, you're able to not only handle the situation very well, but also your mood doesn't fluctuate. Your mood also stays in the same place, where if somebody criticizes you or somebody appreciates you, either way you don't feel happy or sad about it, because I mean you don't feel any disturbance about it or anything. You don't feel any disturbance or any excitement about it, because you're in a constant state where you're always able to be uh, you're aware of what is going on, you're aware of all these things, and then you're able to see things in a way where nothing is kind of uncomfortable for you. So this is by right understanding in the self. And we'll discuss about the self and the body. We've already discussed about it before, but since this group of people is new, we can discuss about it again. Because what we've seen as excitement is temporary, that you can see that it doesn't last for very long. That's what we just discussed. But we can also see that most of it has to do with the body, because sensations are all coming through the body. Our sound, touch, form, taste, smell, all these sensations which we are trying to get in terms of pleasure, that's all coming through the body. An expression of the feeling for the other, from the other, like what we discussed about fame or trying to get appreciation or attention from the other, that is also something which is coming from outside. That's not something which is coming from within ourselves. So anything which is coming from outside has a tendency to come and go, even if it's a feeling. Even if it's a feeling coming from outside, it has a tendency to come and go. But something which is within us, that can stay within us, that can stay. So if we have right understanding in the self, the right understanding of the harmony at all the four levels of our existence, and the right feelings, the 9 feelings which we have discussed earlier also, if we have that very firmly there, which we can understand and live with those feelings, then it can lead to continuous happiness. That also we will go through. What exactly is right understanding and right feeling? So basically, you can just ask yourself this question, that when you're in a state where what you are and what you really want to be is the same, then what happens? Are you happy at that point of time, or are you unhappy at that point of time? So I'll just repeat that what you are and what you really want to be. This is not in terms of your career or anything. This is in terms of your feeling and in terms of your understanding and in terms of what is going on inside you. What you are versus what you really want to be. If they're the same, then what would happen? Would you feel happy at that point or not? At that point, just at that point, you can say. You can just write yes or no in the chat.
Yes, if both are the same, we'll be happy.
Okay. So what about the others? I think other people also can. You can switch on your mic is already on. Actually, everybody's mic is on. I think you can talk also, and if you want to put it in the chat, you can put it in the chat, just so that we are able to talk to everyone. Other people are there also, right? There are 20 people around. So all the mics are on. You can talk also. So what you are and what you really want to be in terms of your feelings, in terms of your understanding. If they are the same, you feel happy. What happens if they are not the same?
We keep on trying to achieve that person we want to be.
And while we are doing this trying, at that point, are we happy or unhappy? We're striving to be something which we are not yet, right? We're not talking about career. We're talking
Okay.
about we're not talking about like a goal in our career life, or I mean this kind of aspiration which is coming from I mean our basic aspiration of happiness is there. That's why we're doing whatever we're doing. But this is not in terms of where we see ourselves as a, say, businessman, or as even in terms of our relationship and all that. We're not really talking about a state of some events which lead to something. We're talking about an internal state where what we are internally and what we really want to be internally, if they are the same or not, that we are looking at. Like even when you have excitement, then sometimes you might have this thing where uh, you feel good at that point. So at that point, you're aligned with your kind of, you are able to feel that that's where you want to be and that's where you are. So it's the same. It's like, suppose you're in Hyderabad, suppose I'm in Hyderabad and I want to go to Delhi, then um, I can go on a journey and I can reach there, right? And suppose I'm in Delhi and I want to go to Delhi, I'm already there. So then if I'm already there and that's where I wanted to go, then I would feel that I'm already there, right? I will feel happy about that. So in the same way, I mean, that's not such a good example as such, but basically, in terms of our feeling, if you're feeling good about yourself, and that's what you want to feel about yourself, you're feeling happy about everything that's happening and like happening inside you, and that's what is happening. So if both of them are the same, then there's some kind of harmony within, some kind of resonance is there, and that keeps you in a state where the external things don't affect you, they don't disturb you, they don't create any kind of disharmony within. Whereas when you're in a state where the what you are and what you really want to be are two different things, then you are kind of struggling because you're not accepting the situation, and therefore you want to be something which you're not, and that leads to kind of disharmony within. So whenever there's that disharmony within, it will lead to unhappiness, and whenever there's harmony within, whenever these both are aligned, it will lead to happiness. And when we're talking about harmony, we need to understand the harmony at all the 4 levels, because we live as a human being also, we live as a member of the family also, we live as a member of the society also, and we live as a unit in nature also. And in fact, the entire existence. So we are related to all these things because we are embedded in it, right? We are not separate from all this. So in our relationships, and not only in our relationships, but in within ourselves, we can have feelings. So instead of expecting feelings from the other person, we can have these feelings within ourselves. Like instead of expecting trust, respect, affection, all these feelings, instead of expecting them from another person, that they will give me these feelings, instead of that, I can have these feelings within myself. And if I have these feelings within myself, then I can also share these feelings with others. And when I have them within myself, I'll not be dependent on the other for giving me these feelings. Like, if I'm dependent on somebody for giving me attention, then until he gives me attention, I won't be happy. And when he gives me attention, it'll be for a short time, and then again, I'll be unhappy. Whereas, if the feelings are there within ourselves, then whether the other person gives attention or no attention, we can still be comfortable within, because we already have all these feelings within ourselves and we can recognize that. So can you see the difference between what happens when you have the feelings within yourself versus when you're dependent on the other to get the feelings? And the same with we've already seen that sensations, any kind of pleasure coming from any sensation, even if we try to make it continuous, then it cannot be. If we try to keep eating when we have tasty food, we try to keep eating, then at some point it becomes intolerable. Same with any of these sensations. We like some music, we listen for some time, we like it. Maybe you listen for 2 hours, 3 hours. Suppose somebody forces you to listen to some music, even if they keep changing the song, even then, if somebody keeps telling you, even if it's the music which you like, then at some point you want to stop. At some point it becomes intolerable. Like if somebody forces you to listen to music for 20 days without sleeping or eating or anything, then of course it will become intolerable, because any sensation has this kind of characteristic that a little bit of it feels necessary, feels very good. Then if you get a little more of it without any gap in between, then it becomes unnecessary, and then it becomes intolerable at some point. So if you're getting any sensation for a short time, you like it. But if you want it for a very long time, you cannot get it, because you don't feel like, you don't even want it for that long, because it cannot really work for your continuous happiness. And because there are breaks in this, during those breaks, there is a craving for that sensation again, or any of the other sensations. So that craving, when you're having that craving, then again you're unhappy during that time. And on the other hand, when we have all these feelings within us, then we don't have any dependence on any of the sensations also. Because the sensations can be appreciated, but then they don't drive us towards, I mean, they don't kind of overpower anything that is happening within. Because we have these feelings very properly set, and we have this understanding, plus we are able to live in harmony at all the 4 levels. So we'll talk about the self and the body, maybe think in the next one, maybe we can talk about the self and the body, because if we talk about that, it'll be more clear about what exactly right understanding and right feeling is all about. Right now, we were just discussing the difference between happiness and excitement, mostly discussing about the fact that excitement cannot be continuous. But maybe next time we can talk more about uh, the either we can talk about the self and the body, or we can talk about the feelings of trust, respect, affection, all these feelings. I think it'll be better to, if this group is new, it'll be better to talk about the human being as a coexistence of self and body. So then that way it'll become more clear about what exactly happiness is, where it comes from, what we can do for it, and put everything in perspective about what is the self, what is the body, and then based on that, have a much more clear understanding. If there's any immediate question, we'll take it. Otherwise, we'll close because it's time.
Yes, certainly, Arjun. It's really nice instruction. So, do you have any immediate question? Kindly raise hand. Otherwise, we have a very good session today, and many more to come as we discuss that we may discuss about self and body in the upcoming sessions. So nice. So yes, Arjun, I think it's time already. So we may and we like to appreciate and thanks all the panelists and especially Priya ma'am and Pramod bhaiya. So Priya ma'am,
Yeah,
yes, would you
actually,
like to give
Reshma
any
is,
concluding remark? Yes, please. Welcome.
actually, Reshma was only asking the questions. She was my student. She just passed out, but I want others. I think they might be having questions, but it is newly started, no? So they might be asking in the coming classes. But it's nice, Reshma. She has asked many questions
Yes.
to keep it interactive. So it's nice, Arjun. Also, you could also clear many of doubts. But since it's they have not into the content, no, so there might be a lot of things going in their head. So I think it will be better from the self and the body. It becomes clear for them.
Right. Actually, I didn't realize that the group of people is new. So I thought we just continue our normal discussion.
They don't know any trust and all that and all. They don't know. Just they are students, but from the not from the first year. Only first year students are knowing about the UHV. Second year, third year, fourth year, they don't have any idea.
Okay.
So it's better. It is good to start from the beginning itself.
Okay.
I think then they will.
We can invite more people also.
We can invite. Actually, Sharat Bhai has just sent the message at 6:30. So I could only send to few. Many are now giving the response that no, they will attend. So from next class onwards, definitely will. Next time onwards,
we can
I
even
definitely.
start from. We can even start from before the self and body.
Yeah. Before that is
from the beginning also.
Beginning itself. That would be more nice. Beginning itself.
Yeah.
So next Wednesday onwards, it would be better if you do like that, because first year is having the university exam tomorrow also, so they already know the content.
Okay.
But these students doesn't know the content, so they should not be left. No, otherwise they'll never come to know. They will get pass out and they will be going. And with the teachers, if they attend, they won't feel more. It won't be that interesting. Only when the students attend in the students group only they'll be more interested, because in the other teachers group all teachers are asking questions in their perspective. Here they will ask as a student point of view, so the other students will also get benefited.
Sure.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes,
can invite them.
Okay,
I'll
definitely. Yes. Okay.
So this is quite a nice idea. So that's what Priya ma'am is saying is quite relevant, isn't it, Arjun?
True, very relevant. I think if we are starting from new people who have not attended before, for them, I think it's better to start from the beginning so that everything goes in sequence.
Right.
It'll be more useful that way, I think.
That's good. So I think next, the coming Wednesday onwards, will it be fine if we start from the very beginning? Or Priya ma'am, what would you say?
It will be better, ma'am. So I will talk to other students also. They will also join. And particularly the
Good.
final year students, they have finished the exams, everything. So they are free also.
Oh,
So,
that's fine.
So they can also attend.
That's wonderful then. So I think all said and done. So we'll be, will that be fine, Arjun, if we start from the very beginning?
Definitely. I look forward to that.
Nice enough. So I think we'll call it a day now if our discussion.
Yes, Manisha, certainly.
Good enough.
Yes.
Very nice. So dear friends and dear participants, students alike, it's been a good day today. Yet we have, as planned and discussed, we'll be starting afresh from coming Wednesday. So do log in and join in on the next Wednesday so that we can listen to the proposals from the very beginning. And I'll request all the faculty members who are present here in this follow-up session. So it's if possible and if it is convenient, let's have many of our students who we are teaching and are available for this duration of time for an hour on Wednesday evening to be participating in this follow-up session. It will be good for all of us. So with this, thank you very much for being present here on Wednesday evening and as a part of the discussion of the e-follow-up session of the Universal Human Values. Thank you so much and good night. We'll meet again next Wednesday. And thank you, Arjun, for all the input that you are giving to many of the students and faculty members alike. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.